Hello and welcome. In today's episode, I'm going to show you how we put the driveway together. This driveway is going to be 10 feet by 40 with the flares that you see right there that we're coming up on. And if the footage looks funny, by the way, I messed up on the camera settings. So this is me trying to rescue the footage. So that's why it might look a little bit different. And I was going to do the episode about the water connection and the sewer connection, but my driveway guys came out, so I gotta do that first, and that'll be the next episode. I'll talk about the price of the water and sewer connection to the city. So this is how the driveway is going to look. They still have to flare out the left side here. And they're forming all of this with 1x4s. And as you can see here, he's using the nailer with no compressor. That's one of the fancy ones. I like them, but you gotta keep buying batteries and cartridges for them. So to run it, I guess it's a little bit more expensive, but it is efficient because you don't have any hoses behind you. So let's get to the price. The price was $2,700 for this. The total job, materials, everything. Out the door price $2,700. So I'm gonna break this down for you so you have an idea of how this looks. So this job took about 7 yards of concrete, and concrete around here is about $150. So concrete alone was about $1,050, so a little bit over $1,000. I also did just find out, see, that's how it's going to look. I did find out that our concrete yard is in the process of getting sold to another business, and I am pretty sure that the concrete prices are going to go up from there. And here's the truck coming, and watch how the guy pulls in, how he straddles that form. So that's just, these guys do this all the time, so they're used to it. But yes, so concrete is going to go up just like everything else that's going up in 2020. Lumber prices right now are absolutely insane, and lumber is about $300% more from what it used to be. So 2x4s are getting quoted at $8-9, and they used to be less than $3. And then the sheathing for the housing, that's getting quoted at $23-24, where it used to be, like I showed you guys in the episodes, about $8.97. So it's 300% on lumber, which is just absolutely insane price-wise. So if you do the math on this driveway, I'm going to jump around kind of with pricing on a couple of things. If you do the math on this driveway, so this is 10 by 40, which is about 400 square feet plus the flares. So that adds a couple of square feet there. And the job was $2,700, and the concrete was $1,050 plus, a couple of dollars for the forms and the stakes, and a little bit of rebar over there by the flares. So you're probably looking about somewhere about $1,300 with materials for this job. So then the rest of that $2,700 goes to the guys for labor. So just so you have an idea of how much this job costs and how much these guys get paid. So they actually make a pretty good living, because this job here took about, the actual pour, what you see them doing here, that took about 30 minutes. It might have honestly been even less, because I'm going to show you most of it here, so today's video is going to be a little bit long. But the pour itself is really, it doesn't take long. The prep to form everything, that takes a little bit of time, but it's nothing crazy. And then the owner of the business, of the concrete business, came out and he did a little bit of with the Kubota over there. He came out and prepared the ground, so it's as close to level as you can get it. On a driveway, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, and actually if the driveway slopes a little bit, it's a little bit better, because the rain, the water is going to go off of it, so you don't have standing water, kind of like on the driveway that I did across the street over there. So it rains, it's just the water just goes down either to the side of the property or onto the road. And this is going to be the same thing. And if you look at that property in front of you over there where the black car is sitting, I kind of wanted to line them up as much as I could, because when you back up from this driveway, you can use each other's driveways to do that. so the neighbors can basically use their driveways, so it's easier for them to back up into the other property and then just go onto the road. And I try to think of things like this if I'm building, to see if that's feasible, if that's possible to do something. So you kind of, the neighbors are kind of working together. That's just how my brain works. I try to improve things as whatever I do. I try to do something that I think about, so it has a utilitarian kind of, process to it. So this is how this is done. So this area here is done, and that's what he's making to make sure everything is nice and smooth. So it's not the most difficult job out there, but you have to pay attention, and you have to care about what you're doing. Try to get it, nice and smooth looking, so it looks good. And this is how they do that. They go over a couple of times. If there's high spots, you see how there's high spots? They take those high spots and they move that concrete into the low spots to kind of fix it, like what he's doing right there. So that's all that is. That's basically construction in a nutshell. You see something, you see something, and you try to basically make it look good. So you have to have an eye for detail if you're doing anything construction related, and you have to care. If you care, then your jobs are gonna, for the most part, look good. But you have to care about what you're doing. And I love these guys. They do a good job. They're good people to talk to and easy to deal with, and I never have any issues. Heck, we even plugged a couple of potholes in the neighborhood. I did it from the previous job, and I also did it on this one. You can actually kind of see it between that temporary power pole and that truck. There's a pothole that we filled over there. And like I said, I did it on that job from across the street when we had concrete, and I did it on this job as well, because a couple neighbors actually approached me to fill in the potholes in front of their homes, and I did it. And then I gave the guys a tip of $75 each to help them do that, just so they have a couple bucks in their pocket. So I guess the job cost a little bit more because they got paid $75 each, but I gave that directly to them, not to the owner of the business, since they plugged those holes. And that's a private road, so we pretty much can do, as homeowners in the subdivision, whoever owns the house or builds, we can do whatever we want on the driveway, so we don't have to worry about anything. So that's what you're looking at. Total job, $2,700, about 400 plus square feet of space, I guess, of the driveway. If I upgraded the driveway to be 12 feet wide instead of the 10 that you see, that would have been $3,200, if you're curious, because I did ask about that. So it was just my decision for the budget for building this house. I just didn't want to spend the $500 extra. And I gave my customer the option, and she also said, forget it, just go with a 10-foot wide. So she didn't want to upgrade either, because I gave her that option to do that. So the job itself is not bad. You just have to, once you pour everything and finish it, you have to babysit, make sure nobody walks on it and nothing happens, no animals, or just nothing walks on the concrete. So most of the job here, honestly, the hard part is what you're looking for at, and the rest of it is literally what I call babysitting. You just set up a lawn chair and the guys just chat and sit, and that's all it is. That's what you do. You form this out as you saw what they did with 1x4s. You can also do it with 2x4s, but when it comes to the flares, you do that with 1x4s because they're easier to bend, obviously, than 2x4s. The house foundation usually gets formed with 2x8s or maybe 2x10s. It all depends, where you are, what the code calls for. So that house that you see that we're building, obviously, that was formed with 2x8s, if you're curious, if you haven't seen the other episodes. So that's just how this looks. What else can I tell you about this? The next episode is going to be the city water and sewer connection. So you're going to see how that looks, and I'm going to talk about that price as well, to give you an idea how much a connection costs to the water and sewer. If you're curious how much power connection costs on a new construction house like this, check out my previous videos. You can see that I listed that in the previous videos, so you have an idea how much that is. So pretty much all the major expenses I try to cover to show you guys how this works, and that's what this channel is all about. Just to give you an idea, if you wanted to build a house yourself, kind of what you would be spending. All this is going to matter on where you are, because location matters a lot. I keep repeating, but it's worth repeating, but the closer you get to any major city, it doesn't matter what city it is, but the closer you get to a big city, the more expensive things will be. That's just how things work. So before you buy any lots, make sure you do your homework and see how much your utility connections will cost, your water, your sewer, and your power, before you actually make a purchase of that lot. Because in some places, some cities, you can spend $100,000 or more strictly on those 3 utilities before you even nail one board together, before you do anything. It's the permits, and then the connection fees. The utilities are going to cost you an arm and a leg, and that's just how some cities operate. Where does that money go? We all have our opinions about that, don't we? But if you're looking to build a house, just do your homework, so you don't get yourself in a precarious situation where you bought a lot and you can't afford to build on it because the utility connections are way too expensive. So this is one of the major things you should be looking at. I always look at, for a property, and I'll talk about that more about in the next episode, I always look at a property that has water access, because water can get very expensive if you have to dig a well. So if I got city water, that's the first thing I look at. If the lot has no access to water, to be honest, I usually don't buy it, because I don't want to take a risk, especially being in the mountains here. As you can see, the fog, it's almost hard to see. That's why they do call it the Smoky Mountains, because you could barely see. But water in the mountains is very tricky, and it can get very expensive. If you're gonna dig a well, you can get easily into $20,000-$30,000 just trying to get a well, try to get water for your property. So that's the first thing I do. Water is the most expensive and difficult thing to deal with. When it comes to power, I would say it's the easiest. And then the septic tank or sewer is in the middle, because the septic tank, you watch the episode on my little cabin, that's pretty much straightforward. It's not that bad. It's fairly straightforward, and it's not that expensive either. And a sewer connection, if you watched the first build that I put on cabin, and if you watched the next episode that I'm going to show you, you'll see how the sewer connection works, and that's also not that bad. Your plumbers pretty much can do that, or whoever does your septic tank, they do most of the work. And if you will see it, if you watch that episode, then you'll see that it's not that difficult. But water, on the other hand, is a completely different animal. Digging wells going 200, 300 feet down, it can get pricey. So just be careful of that. If you have property that does not have water, be wary of it. And talk to some neighbors and how they get water, and what the depth was if they have to dig wells. So do your homework, make a wise decision. This is where the footage gets better, I finally recognized. And see, he's adjusting the rebar so it sits off the ground, because you don't want your rebar to sit on the ground. It defeats the whole purpose of the thing. So as they do this, they lift the rebar a little bit so it's kind of in the middle. So just look out for water. It's funny, I'm doing a driveway episode and I'm talking about utility connections, but hey, it all connects together. That's just how it works. And now you can kind of see the mountains in the background. The fog is starting to lift a little bit. So this lady that they got this house, she'll have a nice pretty view, because that person who owns the lot below where you see all the cars, He lives across the street and he's not going to build on it because he built his house across the street. So he literally is going to use that lot for parking for his for I guess family and himself, because he's got multiple cars. So the benefit of that is that the lady is not going to have her view blocked of those mountains that you see in the background, which is nice. And see, now they're putting the finishing touches. So we're about 15 minutes into the video and you pretty much saw almost real time of how this takes place. And the actual pour does not take that much time. Most of the time you're gonna be sitting on lawn chairs and chatting and just make sure everything dries. At the end of the day, they'll put some ribbons in front of the driveway so nobody drives on it. And that's the total job. So $2,700, about $1,300 somewhere around there for materials. And then if we went wider, instead of 10 by 40, if I did 12 by 40, to recap, it would have been $3,200, so $3,200. And that's just how it's looking. So I thank you very much for watching, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care.